The Silent Audit. Elias Van Der Linden sat in the hushed, cavernous study of his Fifth Avenue mansion. The revised offer check, rejected and uncashed, lay on the mahogany desk next to a copy of the morning's New York Herald, which, notably, carried no mention of the Mesabi strike. He had bought silence in print, but he could not buy the silence of society. His chief financial advisor, Mr. Alistair Finch, nervously cleared his throat. "Sir, the board is concerned that Benton girl's little protest batch has caused undue scrutiny. The Ladies' Charities League is postponing its gala, and Senator Wallace called off the dinner. He mentioned unpleasant optics concerning the Mesabi labor situation." Elias did not look up from the financial ledgers. "Unpleasant optics," he repeated, the words laced with cold contempt. "Sentiment, gossip. Tell me, Finch, what is the cost of this unpleasant optics? Did our stock price fall? Did the rail contract dissolve? Give me a number I can crush." "No, sir," Finch stammered. "The stock is stable, the contract is secure, but the reputation capital is being debited. The bank director, Mr. Thorne, called. He's receiving letters. He's asking us to resolve the Mesabi issue quickly, purely to quell the social noise." Elias finally raised his eyes. They were hard, glacial. "She has discovered the unpriced asset, Finch. The one thing that cannot be calculated into a margin. Social acceptance. He had spent his life valuing everything based on its price tag. Clara was forcing him to value something based on its absence. 2. The counter-leverage. That afternoon, Elias summoned a private detective, a man whose specialty was not theft, but the quiet manipulation of public perception. "Miss Benton," Elias instructed, leaning back in his chair, his hands steepled. "She speaks of hunger. She speaks of moral truth. I want the truth about her." The detective, Mr. Graves, was brief and efficient. Within hours, he presented a small, discreet file. It contained only 2 key items. Clara Benton's mother, Mrs. Evelyn Benton, was the daughter of a prominent but now disgraced shipping magnate who had once faced accusations of insurance fraud, a social shadow she and her father worked tirelessly to overcome. Clara herself had secretly borrowed a significant sum from her mother's small trust fund, the last reserve, to pay the Tribune's back wages before the bank recalled the loan. Elias smiled, a slow, dangerous expression. A financial debt, cloaked in moral purity. Now we have leverage that speaks the language of both steel and silk. Chapter 3. The Invitation. The next day, Clara was in the printing union hall, reading her latest editorial to a small, energized crowd. She felt an exhilarating sense of purpose. The Tribune may be dead, but the voice was louder than ever. When she returned to the small, tense brownstone, a liveried footman from the Van Der Linden estate was waiting. He presented a heavy, gold-embossed invitation. It was not a new offer for the paper. It was an invitation to a private luncheon to be held tomorrow at the Van Der Linden Ironworks, not the ballroom, but the heart of his empire. Clara tore open the accompanying note, penned in the Elias's clean, forceful hand. "Miss Benton, your theatrical performance has been noted. It has caused sufficient inconvenience to warrant a discussion on terms. I have learned that even sentiment has a value, provided it can be priced. Come and see the engine of progress you seek to dismantle. Come and calculate the true cost of your moral stand. I look forward to our negotiation. Elias Van Der Linden." Clara's heart pounded. He hadn't just ignored her move, he had acknowledged it and raised the stakes. He was pulling her out of the protective sphere of silk and into the roaring, unforgiving reality of steel. She looked at the invitation, then out her window at the relentless, smoky skyline. She knew she had to go. The negotiation was no longer about the paper. It was about the line between principle and survival. Chapter 4. The Cost of Calculation. The Van der Linden Ironworks was a symphony of industrial power. The air was thick with the scent of coal and hot metal, and the ground vibrated under Clara's feet. Massive trip hammers rose and fell with rhythmic, deafening force, shaping incandescent blooms of steel. This was the heart of Elias Van der Linden's world, raw, brutal, and undeniably magnificent. She stood in a specially constructed viewing platform overlooking the main forge, wearing a simple navy dress that seemed deliberately understated against the backdrop of fire and shadow. A long table had been set with linen and silver, an absurd island of high society amidst the chaos of production. Elias Van der Linden was already seated. He did not rise, but merely gestured to the empty chair opposite him. "Welcome, Miss Benton. I trust you appreciate the setting. Everything you see here, the roar, the heat, the power, it all comes down to a single, verifiable ledger entry." Clara took her seat, her gaze unwavering. "I see a price, Mr. Van der Linden, but I see no value. You manufacture steel. I came to discuss the manufacture of a future where that steel doesn't crush the men who make it." He smiled, a cold, analytical expression. "Sentiment, Miss Benton, is a wonderful thing for poets and socialites. For me, it is a variable that must be contained. Let us speak of your sentiment." Elias leaned forward and pushed the discreet file compiled by Mr. Graves across the table. It was open to the page detailing her mother's family history and the Tribune loan. "This, Miss Benton, is the price of your moral stand. You leveraged your mother's final reserve, a reserve painstakingly protected from the shadow of her father's unpleasant optics, to fund an act of defiance. A noble act, perhaps, but a financially precarious one. That money is a debt, and the principal will soon be called. And when it is, the papers will report not on your moral victory, but on the financial ruin that accompanies it. They will remind society of the family shame your mother tried so hard to bury." Clara felt a chill that the heat of the forge could not dispel. This was worse than a threat. It was a surgeon finding the precise, most delicate nerve. He hadn't attacked her, but the one she was trying to protect. "You believe every principle can be bought or broken by a financial calculation," Clara said, her voice low but steady. "I believe every action has a cost," Elias corrected smoothly. "Your cost is simple: social stigma and financial debt. My offer remains the same. I will buy your paper's assets, the printing press, the name, everything, for 3 times the market value. But I will add a clause. I will personally and quietly extinguish your mother's trust fund debt entirely and guarantee her anonymity from this day forward. Your mother's peace for your silence." He picked up a perfectly polished piece of cutlery. "You came here to discuss the line between principle and survival. I have just priced that line for you, Miss Benton. Now calculate." Chapter 5. The Unpriced Counter. The deafening clang of a hammer provided the only punctuation to his offer. Clara looked past him at the men stripped to the waist battling the fire, then down at the file that held her family secret.
"You have calculated the financial cost perfectly, Mr. Van der Linden," Clara said, her voice regaining its strength. "You have tried to assign a price to my principle by connecting it to money, but you failed to calculate the one thing that is truly unpriced, the cost of liberation." She slid the file back. "If I accept your deal, I will carry the shame of selling my truth for the rest of my life, and my mother will carry the burden of my silence. That is a far greater debt than the bank can ever call. My mother's honor is not for sale, and neither is my principle." Clara rose to her feet. "I reject your offer. I will repay my debt, and my mother will defend her honor on her own terms. You may have the money to buy silence, but you cannot buy the trust of the people. That, Mr. Van der Linden, is my unpriced asset." Elias's eyes narrowed. "The deadline is 2 weeks, Miss Benton. I hope your asset can be converted into cash by then." Clara smiled, a resolute, cold expression. "We shall see what is truly the dominant currency in New York City, your steel or the people's trust." She walked away, leaving Elias alone amidst the roar of his unconquered empire. Chapter 4. The Currency of Trust. The Steel Lord's Conundrum. Elias sat staring at the financial report. Finch soon entered, nervously wringing his hands. "She truly refused, sir." "She did," Elias confirmed. "She chose abstract morality over practical solvency. She is building a moral capital that we must not allow her to martyr her. If we crush her financially now, we only strengthen her narrative." "Then what is the strategy?" "We wait. We wait 2 weeks. No one in this city will finance the enemy of Elias Van Der Linden. We will show her that principle, however noble, starves when confronted with reality." The weight of the trust. Clara spent the next week hitting a wall. Every newspaper owner, every wealthy acquaintance, and every union fund rejected her pleas for help to save the press. The influence of Van der Linden was absolute. Sympathy was abundant, but financial commitment was zero. One evening, Clara confessed the entire truth to her mother, Evelyn, including Elias's surgical threat regarding the family shame. Evelyn took her daughter's hands. "I have carried my father's shame for decades. If I trade your truth for that old secrecy, I would be ashamed of myself. You did right to refuse. We will face the debt together. Your principle is my honor, Clara, and it is non-negotiable." Evelyn's resolve gave Clara new strength. Chapter 3. The Silk's New Strategy. Clara realized she couldn't fight money with money. She had to use her unpriced asset to inflict a monetary wound upon Elias. She met with Miss Esmeralda Durant, a society leader. "Elias is vulnerable to social standing," Clara explained. "We must weaponize the optics he despises. We will hold a public event to shame him where it hurts most, his reputation." Clara proposed the Table of Truth, a public gathering outside the defunct Tribune office where elite women would sit down not for a lavish gala, but to eat the Mesabi workers' meal, bread and water. 3 days later, hundreds gathered. Clara, her mother, and 10 of New York's most prominent women sat at a long table draped in white linen, centered with bread and a pitcher of water. Clara spoke not about her paper, but about Elias's arrogance and the price he put on human dignity. She publicly revealed the Van der Linden threat.
"Mr. Van der Linden offered to purchase my mother's peace, to buy my silence. He believes every conscience has a price. Today, I ask you not for money, but for your moral capital." The crowd responded not with dollars, but with symbols of their own unpriced value. An elderly woman offered her wedding ring. A factory worker offered his last gold coin. It was not a fundraiser. It was a massive, tangible declaration of public faith. The press captured the images, society's silk embracing the plight of steel. V. The unpriced defeat. Elias Van Der Linden was blindsided. His stock price was stable, but his social standing was in free fall. Finch burst into his study, visibly shaken. "Sir, the bank director, Mr. Thorne, called. He says the Van Der Linden Company is now a social liability. The table of truth has destroyed our goodwill. Our new bond issuance will be priced 20% lower than expected. It is a loss of millions." "Goodwill," Elias roared, pounding his desk. "An abstraction." "A profitable abstraction, sir," Finch corrected grimly. He said, "The people's trust is now more valuable currency than steel." Elias sank back, defeated. He had asked for a number, and he had received it. His financial empire was hit by the power of the unpriced asset. "Finch," Elias finally commanded, his voice heavy with the weight of concession. "Call Miss Benton. Tell her the debt is paid. Account name Goodwill Debit. And Mesabi wages will be raised immediately. I am withdrawing. The price of this social war is too high."